welcome to Zeta Global Radio. I am your host, Lainie Sevante, here on our Saturday, wishing you an extraordinary day. And we are spending this entire month in honor of Earth Day, honoring all things of the planet. And of course, what goes around the world in terms of what we eat are those beautiful little bees that we are going to talk about again today, because we bring this up every year with our expert, Alisha Forrester Scott, who I'll bring on in a minute. And I bring it on because I'm such an advocate for everybody living in harmony and living together as a community, and wanting to bring that awareness and that total consciousness to ourselves that our repercussions of what we do in the world have grave effects on humanity as a whole. And when it comes to our food supply, that is something we should all be taking careful notice. And it's been something that we should have had on alert a long time ago. But now we're going to get an update and seeing where things are at. Have we progressed? Have we regressed? Where are we at? How are the Earth Bees doing? Welcome to the show. Welcome back, my sister, Alisha Forrester Scott. So glad to have you here.
Hi, Lainie. Thanks for having me back. Of course, I'm happy to be here with you.
Well, you know, this to me is always a treat. I don't even know what we're going to talk about today in terms of good, bad, ugly, but it's all necessary. And I know when we first started this, was it 4 years ago, 3 years ago? We've been talking about, I know you've been talking about bees a long time, but I think when I met you, I've had you on the show every year to really showcase what you are about, what you're doing. This is your journey too, and the bees. So why don't, for the people who are just getting to know you this first time today, let them know who Alisha B. Forrester Scott is. How's that?
Yeah, I would love to. And you're right, it's been several years. You've had me on interviews with you since 2013. And you definitely have helped me to find my own way more. And it'll be nice to tell you guys a little bit about how it is I got started in the bees, which I think is the most striking feature of my work. I did not intend to get involved with the bees. In fact, prior to 2011, I had, a couple of businesses, and I was focused on making a living and not really focused on anything beyond my own particular interests. And what ended up happening is I went on a walk one day that changed everything for me. I was in Napa, California. I was dog sitting, and on the walk with the dog, I saw something shimmering on the ground. I got close to it, bent down, and saw that it was a bee. And the bee was shaking as if it were having some sort of a seizure. And I remember thinking that it was disgusting. And I was not attracted to what I saw. I had never seen a bee up close before shaking, and that stuck with me. About 1 week later, another incident with a bee occurred, this time inside the house. I happened to look down, and next to where I was, there was a giant bee, which I know now is a carpenter bee, and it was writhing back and forth slowly. This was different than the other bee, but same thing, another bee on the ground, and something that was unique to my life, having never experienced that. About 2 weeks later, it was the final kick in the butt that I needed to finally start getting involved. And I went to a park after a rainstorm, and when I stopped to stretch my legs at a bench, I saw two bees upside down in a flood of water. And that is when I finally looked it up. Why are bees dying? And ever since then, I am here to talk about what's going on with bees and share information that will hopefully help them out.
Wow. First off, thanks for resharing that. Second, at this time, was there a lot of information when you started to look it up? I mean, was there resources at that point? Were there people already in the movement of bringing the awareness to the world like you do now?
Well, at that time, when I looked it up on Google. And Google returns over 1 million pieces of information about why are the bees dying. There were dozens of different answers, and many of them were confusing to me, but it got me started down the path of researching these answers to see what it is beekeepers were talking about versus what the chemical companies were talking about versus, what people that are scientists are saying about the problem of bees dying. So there were people talking, but it was not a mainstream topic. And even though we're getting to the point where bees are in the news more often, I still would not consider bees a mainstream topic, but hopefully my work will change that, and the more people that listen to what we talk about today will be able to pass it on and help my mission grow so that they can benefit as well in their own homes and neighborhoods.
I'm thinking about today's society and how, of course, the current issue is on gun control, and that is a horrific issue, and of course one that's continuously being debated. And this is not a political show, we know that, but I presence that because the bees, to me, and I'm sure to you too, I know to you too, has such another dire straight consequences that I don't think people quite grasp the severity of it. And so this also is a deadly issue, and I thought maybe in the few minutes we have, and of course going into the second segment, you can shed some light for those who don't even know the extent that bees do the work for us humans.
So bees are pollinators, and pollinators are insects that help our food supply chain to be grown. And that sounds strange, but imagine, if you will, a love affair happening. We have bees, we have flowers. Bees are attracted to flowers because they have both pollen and nectar. And these are parts of the flower that bees find extremely attractive. They also use these materials to create honey and wax, which they use to create their residence and take care of, in the instance of honeybees, all of their babies. So they live and work in a hive. Imagine if you're a bee going out into the world and you come upon a flower. You're attracted to the flower, and what happens is you go in to inspect. And with any luck, you'll get some nectar and you'll take some pollen with you. But while you're on the flower, what happens in modern culture is that there's a good chance that that flower is coated in chemicals that we were told would make our yards beautiful. But instead, it actually is a neurotoxin that sticks to the body of the bees while they're visiting the flowers. So you have a flower that is attracting the bee, and it has a chemical on it that in turn makes the bee die quickly. And when I say quickly, because it's a systemic neurotoxin, sometimes they don't last the night. They can't even make it back to their hive. And without the bees making it back to the hive, bees dying quickly, our food and flowers are not being pollinated. And if there's no pollination, then our food cannot grow.
That's so visceral. I almost started crying thinking about the innocence of that and the horrificness of it and the vanity, really. I know we want beauty in our yards, but we need to be educated. So I think what we'll do is take a break here, and when we come back, let's start off the top of the segment talking about these pesticides, what we're using, what we know that is really to bring people's awareness that they shouldn't use. Maybe there's some alternative best practices. So let's stop there. We'll take a quick break. You're listening to Zeta Global Radio. Thank you so much for being here today. We thank you. The bees thank you. We'll be back in a moment. Are you ready to delve deeper to find the truth of who you are and discover your own unique gifts for the world? Have you searched for an understanding of your creative expression and how to bring that into form? World-renowned spiritual practitioners Teresina and Martin Bakens invite you to 2 special upcoming enlightened retreats. May 17th through 19th, join Teresina with co-presenter Cheryl Ryder for the powerful retreat Healing with the 5 Elements, held at the Sevilleta Federal Wildlife Refuge between Belen and Socorro, New Mexico. On June 8th through 10th, Teresina and Martin Bakens will be back teaching the sacred spiral of the phenomenal people, now reserving on the beautiful tropical paradise of Pine Island in southwest Florida. You'll join others to celebrate the sacred understanding of self, remember the ancient wisdom encoded in your body, and the opportunity to explore the creatrix within. You will emerge with the experience of an even more inspired, empowered you. Early registration and pricing is available for both retreats, and for more information, please visit beaconsoflove.com. That's beaconsoflove.com. Hi, Lainie Sevante here, and I'd love for you to visit my new Facebook page for my private tarot and oracle session readings called Intuitive Wisdom. That's IN2UITIVE Wisdom. Conscious strategies for manifesting a more harmonious life. Don't we all want to have that? Let's see what's in the cards for you as we look at what needs to be cleared, expanded upon, and evolved. There's a lot to explore when we take a deeper look inside ourselves. Welcome back to ZGR. Thank you so much for being here today. Bee lovers, you're here with Lainie Sevante Walken and Alisha B. Forrester Scott. Do people call you Alisha B? Is that a common name for you? Because of course you are the bee goddess.
Oh, well, I thank you. And it wasn't until later in my life I realized that name seemed vaguely familiar, and so it was easy to adopt it again for this work.
I love it. So what we were talking about in the first segment, if you're just tuning in, is how the bees are dying, and it's obvious that they are dying because they're being exposed to chemicals instantly when people put them on their lawns. So let's talk about that. Is there certain ones? Can you name them? Can you not name them? Is there a certain, however you want to talk about it and approach it, but we do need to let people know that it's actually man-made chemicals. This is something that humans are doing to nature.
Yes, I would like to talk more about it because it's so common. Now, the neonicotinoids are a chemical class that are used both at home for landscaping and in conventional farming, talking about food crops. So obviously there's a difference between flowers that we plant for beautification and flowers that we plant for food. But the same chemicals are most often found in both of these areas. So at home, next time you're going through your chemicals for the lawn or garden, the two names you can look out for and try to avoid using are Roundup and Miracle-Gro. Now, these are very, very common chemicals that go under that class of neonicotinoids, and neonicotinoids are the systemic pesticides that are killing the bees.
Well, people are using those not only to grow beautiful flowers, but also to kill the weeds, correct?
Killing weeds and killing other sorts of pests, as they're called. But unfortunately, there are beneficial insects, such as pollinators like bees, that are coming to the same garden areas or the same food crop production areas. And because, again, of their natural instinct to approach the flowers, they're actually getting gassed and not able to fulfill their destiny of pollination.
Is there a list that people can go to? I know you mentioned the generic names, but you also mentioned neonicotinoid. How do I say that?
Yes, neonicotinoids, and sometimes they're called neonics. I have a bees info tab, and there's a list of links that you can find there that will give you information about this topic. And one of the links there will show you a list of the common used chemical names, the ones that you'll see in the stores and the ones that the companies use to market to farmers.
Well, I suppose it begs the question, if they're killing the bees and it's getting into the soil and people are barefoot gardening or possibly putting vegetables too close to these, I would think that would have adverse effects on humans as well, and people aren't aware of that. Or are they aware of it and think that it's not going to happen to them?
Well, more than ever, people have chemical sensitivities, allergies, and other problems because of environmental damage or pollution. There are countries that are stepping up and making it obvious that the chemicals that are also common are not welcome onto shelves anymore, or they're enforcing laws that ask farmers to register whenever they're using the chemicals so that they can keep track of what's actually happening on land. The three most common neonicotinoids are called clothianidin, imidacloprid, and thiamethoxam.
Good Lord.
But there'll be Yeah, they'll be on that website, thealishaproject.com.
So you mentioned that there are countries who are becoming not only aware but advocates and protectors. So which countries so far are leading the charge?
Well, luckily to the north, Canada has provinces that are becoming quite active in protecting pollinators, both on the conventional farming side and just informing people that participate in landscaping activities. Quebec most recently had a story come out about their tightening of the rules for these different types of pesticides, including the neonicotinoids that we talked about. This is a news story where they said there's $2 billion in beekeeping happening in Canada, and human health is also at risk. So why would we take any chances to allow these chemicals to continue being sold on the market? So Quebec is one that is leading the way.
That's terrific. Yay, Quebec. We have a lot of Canadian listeners, so this is exciting for them and exciting for the world. Do you think that, what percentage of the world do you say, besides Quebec, are aware of this? Because I feel like Europeans are more versed and compassionate about this than here in the U.S., or do I have that wrong?
I just returned from Europe, and I would say that you are correct. I think that people are more aware of the food supply chain and how food gets onto the table, not just from a grocery store. In answer to your question, Europe is another continent that is really stepping up to try to take precautions and spare the lives of pollinators of all sorts. There are other types of pollinators affected by this, including we have bees, birds, bats, butterflies. And so we have Europe going back and forth with the chemical giants, making sure that they're being more and more and more kept within boundaries that will keep pollinators safe. So there's always stories coming out of Europe that are inspiring. However, because the chemical giants are so wealthy, they can basically kick anything back into court that makes them have an advantage and stay on the market longer.
Well, what can we do as a consumer if we have agreed to not use some of these big chemicals? Is there natural remedies that will support them? Is there certain flowers that are more sustainable, like here in the Southwest, where I currently am recording with you, xeriscaping? I mean, there are different areas that focus on regional landscaping, and I just wondered if there were some home remedies and practices that we can do as a consumer to protect the bees.
Yeah, there's some really good news coming out of chemistry world here. And what I recently discovered in the last year of research is that if you were to do an online search for organic insecticides or organic pesticides, there are a few companies now that offer products that are completely non-toxic, that have very high success rates in multiple types of crops. One of the chemicals, one of the products doesn't have any chemicals in it. You could literally drink it. And this style of farming makes a lot of sense, right? Because if you don't want to drink it, why are you going to put it in your food supply? So it's nice to see that technology is catching up with chemistry, and that there are a lot of compassionate people that don't want to poison consumers and don't want to poison pollinators.
No doubt. I mean, I'm not going to date myself and say when I graduated college, but when I did graduate college a while back, I got a degree in food science, and I think that if I was I was a vegan and animal rights activist in college, and I would have probably gone the route of creating products like this. Like this would have been where I would have gone, creating something new that would take the place of things happening to the planet. But life has taken me differently. Now I could showcase people like you who are bringing the information forward. So we're going to take a quick break. Please listen to our sponsors, our wonderful advertisers who are supporting Zeta Global Radio's work and all the work of the people who come on here. We'll be back in a moment.
The Remedy is Albuquerque, New Mexico's premier urban day spa. Created with you in mind, The Remedy offers a spa experience that goes beyond the highest quality treatments and products. They're there to help you relax, regroup, rejuvenate, and escape a bit from your busy life. You'll feel it the second you walk in their doors. They have a distinct menu of Ayurvedic services and therapies to infuse a sense of peace and well-being, while allowing you to enjoy a luxurious feel and experience. Ayurvedic lifestyle consultations are available and suggested treatments that include Shirodhara, Marma work, therapeutic massage, Ayurvedic oils, detoxification, and nourishment of the body. For more information, please visit theremedydayspa.com today. Sandy Wyndham is Florida's premier artistic photographer. Her passion shines through every picture she takes. Whether creating a series of artistic shots, headshots, corporate shots, or capturing one of life's most memorable moments, she just can't be beat. Consider Sandy Wyndham Photography. Visit her now at sandywyndham.com and let her know you're a ZGR listener for special discounts.
Welcome back to Zeta Global Radio. How are the Earth's bees doing? The honeybees. We're specifically talking about honeybees, correct? Or are we talking about all bees, Alisha?
Well, the conventional farming currently is run with honeybees being the major pollinators, but most of the world's bees are actually solitary native bees, which are not managed for conventional farming. So we're talking about both, but one's definitely more popular.
So along the lines of farming, which is another hot topic, and I really feel for the farmers who need to make a living and want to preserve their crops and want to preserve their livelihood, yet are faced with some of these dilemmas happening today and also some pushback from organizations. So let's just talk about that whole kind of vicious, hopefully turning into a harmonious cycle from your point of view.
Yeah, I would love to. And there is a book that I have been reading since 2016. I keep going through it, and it's called Bee Time. It's by a man named Mark L. Winston. And in 2016, at the end of the summer, I was in Vancouver, Canada, and ended up going to a lecture from Mr. Winston. Going through the book, I recently discovered a section that I cannot stop reading, and it's because it gives me great joy to realize that there is a light at the end of the tunnel when we're talking about switching conventional farms over to organic farms, and I'd love to talk about it.
Okay, let's go for it.
All right, so the true value of pollinators is unknown to the rest of the world, but people who are farmers planting food crops, they realize just how important pollinators are. And without pollinators, food does not exist, and a lot of other aspects of industry break down, let alone our health and wellness and the health and wellness of other living beings on the planet. Our quality of life goes down. So one particularly interesting excerpt from this book called Bee Time is in a section called Valuing Nature, and it talks about the work of a woman named Lauren Morandin, and she worked with Mr. Winston in a research study or two. And Laura had compared 3 types of canola fields. She had compared organic fields, conventional fields, and genetically modified fields. Organic fields are the ones that use the least amount of insecticides and pesticides through the process, and they don't typically have a toxic component of their application. Conventional farming is the fast and cheap food that everybody buys at the grocery store. It's sprayed with chemicals all throughout the process, and at the end of the day is coated in those different chemicals. And then there's genetically modified foods. Those are seeds that were created in a lab for certain reasons, and they're when they're planted, they use a certain kind of chemical compound to fertilize them and prevent bugs from eating them.
They're the hardiest?
No, the genetically modified are the hardiest, yes, meaning they were created to grow quickly and not have any bugs want them. They're resistant to pesticides and pests. So the organic fields in this study, they had really strict regulatory guidelines that prohibited most pesticides from being used. The conventional fields were sprayed with insecticides, herbicides, and fungicides. And the genetically modified fields, they were already herbicide resistant from the science lab. And that means that the weed killer could be sprayed on them while they were growing, and it would kill the weeds faster than if they were just to spray them with a regular seed. So in this case with GM, the herbicides were sprayed before planting and or after the harvest. the problem with conventional farming and switching it to organic farming is a lot of farmers are under the influence of information that is incorrect. As this study showed, if an organic field had been planted with canola, if they were to plant even 30% less land, that means that they were going to leave 30% of the land uncultivated. The farmers who planted that way and used organic seeds and organic processes, they were able to make $65,000 in profit. And that was leaving 1/3 of their potential land unmanaged and unplanted. Whereas if a conventional farmer was to plant all of the space that they had with crops and go ahead and spray all of the chemicals, they were only making $27,000 versus that $65,000 organic profit. So the value of organic fields and pollinators increases the value of the crop if it is an organic process. And like I said, this is a light at the end of the tunnel for the problem that, oh no, industry says we can't switch to organic, it would cost too much. But the truth is that the farmers would actually make this profit back in a relatively short amount of time.
So we need more people educating the farmers.
More education to the farmers, and my guess is that there will need to be programs created that help them make the switch. Because once you've been using conventional chemicals, your land needs to be remediated. There are crops that are finally being okayed by the government in certain areas. These are hemp crops. Hemp crops actually can remediate the soil within one cycle. And that is good news because that would be a perfect bridge for a conventional to organic farming operation. So I can see a future where there are programs that are supporting farmers to go into business to become organic farmers, but also to support the people that are in conventional farming, switching them to a way of life that is much less detrimental to everyone and everything.
You're giving us good news this time, Alisha. Better news this time than you have in the past, and that makes me really happy because, well, first off, period. And I was going to say because I was a little concerned just with our current administration where the support is for this, what programs are being offered for R&D, what programs are being offered, like you're saying, for the farmers. Is there any help being given from the government?
Well, traditionally, honeybees are the only bees that have been studied, and they have a remarkably low amount of money donated to the cause of their studying their habits and how they thrive. So our scientific-backed evidence that the government uses is not up to date. And in fact, there are countries all over the world that have done in-depth bee research, and they're the ones giving us the answers, such as in that book I read. They're from Canada. So what we're hoping to see is an increase in the interest of pollinators and the value of pollination. Right now, I don't have any great news coming out of our current administration, but you never know what will happen when our arm is proverbially twisted and the prices of food go up. There may be some sustainable answer that the government adopts. I'm not thinking that will happen, but that is my hope.
Well, and of course, our overall topic this month is about planet Earth and Earth Day, and of course, with that, you have to think about climate change. And earlier this week, I posted an article from the New York Times talking about the bees, amongst some other species, who are so thrown off by the climate change in springing early and winter getting colder and all the mix-up. So you have to throw that into the mix. That even cycles now are not even in balance for these little baby bees.
That's true. Same with birds. I hear that has been happening for quite some time now, where spring will spring early and the insects that hatch too early for the birds that are not hatched yet. So you have a lot of bugs coming up out of ground and are gone by the time normally creatures like birds would be hatched going to find food and the insect food. So there are definitely cycles that are thrown off. And the good news is that each person for themselves and each neighborhood for itself can make a plan and communicate and do it as necessary for their area so that they don't experience, some greater widespread issues that will happen when people aren't prepared and are uninformed.
Wow. Okay. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. Again, when we come back, more on Alisha, the bees, what else you've got going on in your big world, because I know it ties into all your projects. They all overlap in beautiful harmony, all for the planet, all for the good. You're listening to Zeta Global Radio. We'll be right back.
Spiritual Communities Network, where we honor the uniqueness in our oneness. Visit our website to meet our vast spiritual community of healers, therapists, conscious events, and activities. Visit and check out our directory, upcoming retreats, workshops, products, free videos, and much more. Many services are available globally by phone, Skype, and other sources of media. You'll also find more information on how you can be a member to promote the work you're doing in the world. Visit us now at spiritualcommunitiesnetwork.com.
Trice Massage Therapy and Skincare is Southwest Florida's premier holistic and wellness spa to relax and rejuvenate your well-being. Founded by Lucille Trice, this enlightened haven located in Cape Coral offers a variety of massage therapies including Swedish, deep tissue, and trigger point massage. Trice offers detoxifying body wraps and facials using natural organic ingredients to pamper your skin and restore balance and health. Visit their Trice Massage Therapy and Skincare Facebook page or call 239-672-0526 and book your experience today. Mention ZGR and receive a complimentary ionic foot detox experience. Okay, if you are just coming in at the tail end of this, I highly recommend you go back and listen to this and share it far and wide. And as you know, we are now airing our ZGR shows on YouTube because we want to build that subscriber base and get these shows out for the mere sake of education and awareness for the planet, because it's so important. The topics we have here are all for upliftment and expansion, and obviously interest too. The people who listen to the show, like you, write in and you tell me what topics are important. And so thank you for making bees important. So Alisha, talking about the buzz of bees and talking about new technology, I want to talk about robots and robotic bees, because like everything else, everyone's talking about flying cars, robots that tell you what to do. The other day, I touched my computer and it started speaking to me, and I didn't even know I had that function on my computer. It completely spooked me. So tell me what is going on with robotic bees.
Well, in 2017, there was a really interesting story from NPR that was about a Japanese scientist who had been building an insect-sized drone that was capable of artificial pollination. And when we think artificial pollination, there's already some happening right now. Imagine, if you will, in China, in orchards, there are workers on ladders with paintbrushes, literally moving the paintbrush from one flower to the other, taking pollen from one flower to the other, and by hand cross-pollinating the food.
Oh my God, yes, that's amazing.
It is amazing, and unfortunately, because they don't have a lot of bees in the areas that they're using this form of artificial pollination, it's working for them, but at what cost? And so insect-sized drones capable of artificial pollination are likely going to become a more and more popular idea. Now, if you were to ask me, I'm not thinking that moving into the area of simply providing artificial pollination with drones is a good idea. We still have a lot of bees on the planet left to help heal and to regenerate the places that they live and make environments less toxic. But this does seem to be something that is very sci-fi and a popular of an idea that, oh, well, if bees go, we always have these little drones that will at least help us cover any decline in the food supply chain. What do you think of that?
What do you think?
I mean, I was going to say I agree. It's astonishing, and I think it's also remarkable that we're living in a time where this has already been accomplished.
Yes.
Developed and more developed. So we're going to be making a choice here in the future with bees where we can either help save them or we're going to abandon them and put all of our eggs in the basket of creating technology that does what bees do. But I love this story and topic.
Well, and I know we have another few topics to say in this last segment, but I just want to get to the simplicity of having parents honor conscious parenting with children, that letting them know that bees are our friends and we shouldn't be scared of them and we shouldn't kill them, and all the things that we do with spiders and ants and everything else. I mean, I'm at a place right now where there's some ants crawling around, and I'm talking to them instead of, I'm walking around them, and I'm just like watching them like, oh, you guys are working hard today. Like, I'm just so conscious of all that, and I really want to advocate for all parents to do the same so that our future generations grow up that way. Don't you think it starts with the generations being those educators for our younger ones?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Kids have the right to live a life that has high quality and that they're safe. I have experiences where they've changed me because I've been in close proximity with bees, and because I've been able to have positive experiences, they've replaced over time any fear I used to have about being stung or what the role of bees was. So education, I think, is the first step to demystifying why it is we want to take care of an insect that seems so vastly different than we are, but at the same time provides an invaluable service, which is food, that we obviously rely on.
So what else is what's on your docket? Because I know you fold bees into the other greater Earth planetary mindfulness work that you do. Share us a little bit more in the little bit of time we have left. The bigger world of Alisha B. Forrester Scott.
I would be happy to. So recently I have a few announcements regarding publishing. Now, I have a goal, obviously, to save and restore bees and the food supply chain, and one of the ways I know how to do that is to write. And so I am soon releasing a book called The First 5 Project Planning Lessons, and it'll be available online as a paperback. And this is information that will help somebody who has an idea of completing a project to help the Earth out. It will teach them what they need to do and how to prioritize, and some hints to become a leader in the process. I can't wait to talk about it more because the material is designed for mature teens and adults alike. So there's a more broad audience that you can use these skills for the rest of your life once you learn them.
Well, we'll have you back on the show when that's good and ready to be sold and introduced to the planet.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't wait to share what I've learned through this process of creating the book. And lucky me, a couple of months ago, I met a man named David Cam. He is the founder of a cryptocurrency called Earth Dollar. And you talked a lot about how the blockchain and cryptocurrency can take a humanitarian form. And my work with David upcoming includes co-authoring a book. And the book is going to be about the same topics, and I'm absolutely going to take time in the book to weave in the story of how we can use humanitarian cryptocurrency and the blockchain to save bees. It's going to be a pleasure of mine, and that book will likely launch next spring.
We need to tell David, and I'm telling you too, that I did get a lot of different feedback about the show already, and it did go over a lot of people's heads, and other people, some people said it was very complicated. Other people felt that they had an epiphany of sorts, or a better understanding, some clarity. And so one of the feedbacks I got was, I think it was good that you called it 101. I think we need a 102, 103, 104, or 105. So the interest is there. And, when you're talking about there's going to be, potential altcoin that will benefit the bees, now I understand what that means. Like, if you had said that to me a week ago prior to the show with David Cam, I wouldn't even known what that would mean, what you're talking about, much less this book that you're going to co-author with David on the Earth Dollar. So to me, I feel I learned a lot and I'm more versed, and now I understand it better, and I'm really excited because it's all advocating for new structuring on how we can work on the planet together. We're just creating community. So thank you, thank him, and again, let's take heed to the fact that people are asking for more on this subject.
Well, I'm going to be excited to keep researching what it is people are learning, talking about, and developing. And myself personally, I'm fairly brand new to the entire realms of blockchain and cryptocurrency, but I do see the potential of people collaborating using the blockchain to actually create solutions that and incentivize taking care of the planet. So every time I'm taking a new course online, because that's something I've been spending time doing, I've been reading several hours a day about blockchain and cryptocurrency, because at this point I'm obsessed with the potential. And the more I learn, the more I'm going to be able to integrate the information into the book. And I would be happy to pass along the feedback that you've given me for David. And I agree. I think 101 is typically more than 1 hour of conversation about one particular topic, so I'm sure that we can go into it layer by layer and really help people understand how it is they can learn more for themselves and use their own imagination to solve problems that they see happening in the world and their communities around them.
Perfect. Okay, so we have just another minute here. Let's go ahead and give them how to contact you again. If you have more resources, if they just go to your website, let them know about that. And then any last thoughts? Here we go.
Sure. So if you go to thealishaproject.com, and my name is spelled Alisha, thealishaproject.com. If you click on Bees Info, you can find a ton of different resources that will accelerate your understanding of what's going on with bees. I also started to sprinkle some information in there about cryptocurrency and blockchain and how the humanitarian nature of those systems can come to the forefront. And, I guess the next time you and I see each other, Lainie, I'll have a completely different haircut, because I'm about to donate my hair that I've been growing out for 3 years to a program called Children with Hair Loss, and I'm going to take on a totally new hairstyle.
Well, we're all ready for change. We're ready for planetary change for the positive, and it sounds like that's what this show brought forward through you today, and now you're having a personal change, and that's excellent, and thank you for, wow, you're doing that for the children. So, again, blessings to you and all that you do. Thank you for being here today and educating all of us. And I also want to thank you. First off, I've never been to your blog until the other day, and you are an amazing writer. I knew that, but I really am so grateful for the way you posted about our show and the work that we do here. So thank you for equally supporting ZGR, and I encourage everybody, go check out her blog. It's very interesting stuff. Absolutely. Thanks, Alisha.
Thank you so much for having me. And again, the AlishaProject.com has the Bees Info tab. You can learn a lot about what's happening currently and some background information, including the potentials of blockchain helping the bees to survive.
Beautiful. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Please go to our YouTube channel, Zeta Continuum. I'll have the links on Facebook. The actual Zeta Continuum link is embedded right on our homepage of ZetaGlobalRadio.com now, and we encourage you to share it with all who care about the food they eat, whether you drink beer, whether you like blackberries or raspberries. There are so many things that we rely on with these beautiful creatures, and they help us, so let's help them. Have a beautiful and blessed week.